All right, good morning, everybody. Happy Thursday. I know this weather makes it very difficult to be productive. So I'm going to go through a little bit of information that I want you to consider for the rhetorical strategies portion of this presentation, and just some other things to consider in this assignment, and then I'll talk to you a little bit about your attendance question. So for rhetorical strategies, if you can recall, on the sample assignment, there were three different options with at least 1 to 2 pieces of evidence. And so while you don't necessarily have to have that many, I do think you should probably look at maybe three solid places for these rhetorical strategies. And they're going to be in different spaces. They're going to be where they're, discussing things personally on the side, or they're going to be things in conversation. And so one of the first parts that I'll give this one to you in case you'd like to use it. You absolutely don't have to, but this is an example of a rhetorical strategy. So at lines, probably I would say around 17 or 18, this is where Macbeth is now king, and he tells Banquo, "Are you going to be here at this banquet?" And Banquo says something to him. If you look at the Shakespearean side, he says, "Command upon me to the which my duties are with the most indissoluble tie forever knit." With a most indissoluble tie forever knit. That illustrates the bond, right? Illustrates his place in the social hierarchy of things. And so that was intentional because he wants to show Macbeth that he is not going to disrupt the natural order of things in terms of respecting his position and his, superior as, Macbeth as sovereign. And then if you look a little further at Macbeth's soliloquy in the final lines, it's about lines 50 through 74, 50 through 70-ish. Um, he mentions quite a few things about himself in a metaphorical sense, sorry, words. But he also, has certain descriptions for the two brothers. He calls them the bloody cousins. Little word choices like that are meant to evoke what, are meant to do what within this conversation. A couple of other people had conversations with me about whether or not they need to do all of this for Macbeth or all of this for Banquo, but you're not really getting the point of the presentation if you're really just focusing on one character. The whole point of the PEEP acronym is the rhetorical situation. And what is the situation? This man is now king. One man knows maybe the truth behind the prophecy and suspects that maybe Duncan didn't die by, the payment of these guards, and maybe he died a different way. And so there is suspicion, there's apprehension, and both of them are trying to assess the situation to figure out where their futures are going. And so if you really only focus on Macbeth, you're really not looking at the situation. If you only focus on Banquo, you're not getting everything. So for persona, you do need to do those separately, right? Because they change. For audience, thinking about where they're coming from, thinking about when they're speaking freely, what outside factors are influencing the way that they speak in this conversation, and that speaks directly to audience. For purpose, they could have a similar purpose. Each of them could have their own. You decide. For exigence, it's most likely going to be the same because it's the same catalyst for this situation, but they're different perspectives. They bring to it different emotions or similar emotions for different reasons. And so you have to make that abundantly clear in your presentation. So, if you need to write a lot to get the ideas out and then pick an anchor on certain phrases of what you're analyzing, that might be the way to go. Okay? So if you have questions, make sure that you send me an email or you're with me on Zoom. I'm going to remind you that it is due today. However, your firm deadline is not until Monday if you look at your week at a glance. And I'm going to remind you that these firm deadlines include extra time as a courtesy. The deadline was previous days. Do not start viewing firm deadlines as the deadline. No, today is the deadline. Monday is a courtesy in case something comes up. So don't get in the habit of waiting till firm deadlines because it's going to snowball out of control. And then you're going to be, emailing me 4 minutes before the deadline telling me why it wasn't done when I'm going to tell you it was technically due 3 days ago, 4 days ago. Why didn't you tell me you were struggling with it then? Okay. So I just want to make that very clear because I've been getting a lot of emails about that. So I want to make sure we're all on the same page. For your attendance question for today, I made this mood chart. Yes, I made it myself One of my favorite shows, especially over quarantine last summer, was Schitt's Creek with Dan Levy, and he was just on SNL, I believe, last weekend. But the whole Ew David, oh my gosh, it's my favorite. I love his character. I love his sense of humor. And so these are all the many faces of David. And so on a scale of 1 to 9, which David are you today and why? And for me, I'm pretty much always a number 8 because I like to eat my feelings, but I'm also probably a number 1 because like half the time I don't even know what's going on. I'm just going to go with it and just make it fabulous while I'm at it, I guess. All right, so I know a lot of us might be a 6, or a lot of us might be, I don't know, a 3 because everything is just like, ew, why do I have to do this? Some of us might be at a 2 because we're just frustrated, or maybe even a 9. So let me know where we are today, and make sure that you give me a little brief explanation as to why. Don't share anything you're not comfortable with. But then we'll see you guys back here on Zoom tomorrow. All right? Reach out to me if there's any way that I can help. Take care.